Welcome back to the 8-Man Breakdowns podcast. This is where we discuss all phases of the game of football, including philosophy, play concepts, questions, and more. Today's topic is lessons learned from a first-year offensive coordinator. And joining me today is a great friend of mine, Coach Krae Kelso. He'll be joining me on the podcast today to kind of reflect on our first season as offensive coordinators. He's, of course, the offensive coordinator now at Midway University in Midway, Kentucky. He actually started out as quarterbacks coach and then moved to DBs coach. He ended up taking over as the offensive coordinator, and he's going to be the offensive coordinator going forward. So we'll just get into it, talk about some of the things we learned in our first year as offensive coordinators. So I'd say one of the big things I learned going into it was my 7th year of coaching high school football. And I was also a head coach for junior high for 2 years. So I've learned a lot of stuff over the time. But I think one of the things I learned is to have a plan for everything. And I think to be even over prepared. I had all of my video breakdowns of other scouting reports already put in. I had already watched every team that we were going to play that I had film on from the previous season. And so that helped me a lot, having an idea going into the team we were about to play each week. And it definitely put me above our opponent, as far as an advantage goes, because they had no clue what we were going to be doing. I was the first year head coach in a new school.
Right.
And so I think, having a plan for everything is big for sure. I mean, that goes into scouting and all that, but that's one thing. What's one thing you learned so far?
I think honestly the one biggest thing I think I learned, because you and I talked about this before either one of us got any kind of our offensive coordinating, head coaching job for you, obviously, and going undefeated with you. But we used to talk all the time about stuff we liked and what we wanted to do. And it's really how simple you can be. When I say simple, I mean simple for the kids. I don't mean simple as in you run 2 plays and that's really all you do, even though we can kind of get into this. You and I both had a fairly small playbook for what we had this year. But how simple you can be and still be successful. I think that's the number one takeaway.
And another thing, you're saying being simple. And when you say simple, it really ain't that simple. I mean, it's
No,
it's
it's
simple in
easy,
our
easy for them to
terminology.
learn. Easy
Yeah,
for
it's
them to
simple in
learn.
our terminology, simple to
Yes,
teach to the kids, and the kids simple for them to understand it. The
correct.
play concepts that itself is obviously a little bit more
Yeah,
deep
there's a little more
because
into it. And that's what I mean when I say it. Like, yeah, simple in the fact that you said it's simple for the kids to learn, but does not necessarily mean, like I said, you're only running, 5 plays, 6 plays. Even though you look at offenses like a veer offense or an option offense that run maybe 6 or 7 plays and it works to the max, you can be more simple than you think because it's so easy for coaches, you and I, or maybe not you, myself included. You see something you really like, and you're like, man, this just be a cool play, but it doesn't really fit with anything else you do.
yeah.
Uh,
Oh, I'm definitely that. I agree with
and
that.
it's tough. It's tough not to. It's like, man, this looks so cool. And there are times you can do that. Like we definitely went into each game with a few plays that we only practiced for that week. Might be a trick play, might just be something that we see on film that we like. But the majority of our concepts were fairly simple for them to learn and rep and rep and rep. And if you go back and get good at that. So I think the one thing that I learned the most this year, and my situation, I took over in the middle of the season. So I was forced to be very simple, but I also think that was a blessing because it didn't let me overthink anything that I was doing and proved to me, because, again, every coach, not every coach, there's a lot of coaches out there that think that, you have to have 25 million different things. And, if you can get away with it, go for it. I heard, I think Kevin Kelly said it once. And I mean, I like the idea of what he's saying we're going to have a million different things that we're above our average at, then you have your crew where it's like, we're going to have a few things that we're amazing at. And you can go down either one of those paths, but I think it's very easy to kind of overthink what you're doing. And so I think, coming into this year and realizing that you can be simple and put up points and be successful was probably the number one thing I learned this year.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely be simple. And another thing I think that a lot of coaches get wrong, or even high school coaches think this, because I've heard coaches say this, but they think my
Yeah.
kids aren't smart enough to do that. Well,
Right.
that's not
Don't
true.
get enough credit for it.
Yeah, well, the kids will learn whatever you teach them. I mean, they
Right.
really will, and you can teach them whatever you want. You just got to
Yeah.
rep the crap out of it, no
Right.
matter. And like I said, this year we put in a lot of stuff, and I'm one of them guys, and maybe you are too. where I'm more leaning towards the Kevin Kelly side, where I'd rather be good at a lot than, great at just one or two things.
Yeah.
I don't
No.
want to limit myself. I don't want to get into a playoff game and they stop us and then we're screwed and we have no chance to come back into a game, or we make mistakes and we get behind and we have no yeah. So
Yeah.
that's
And
another
it,
thing.
no, well, as a perfect example is, we had 2 days to put in, a new offense. I know people are probably thinking, why would you put a whole new offense in and not run what you had? Well, to be blunt, there just wasn't much there at the time. So we had to put something new in, and we turned the ball over 3 times in the red zone and still put up 22 points. So we could have put up more with what it is, but that's just to show that, like, hey, we really only put in. I tried to put in more than we could, but we really only had 2 days of install. We had a quick game each day, a drop back each day, and a run each day. That was it. And so that worked for the first 3 weeks. We try to add stuff here and there, but you do get to a point where like you said, it's better. I'm starting to kind of change my mind on that as well. That we can be really great at a few things, but once a defense has a plan to stop it and you have nothing you can answer for it, it's a tough thing to do. And that in that moment, I remember the game specifically, where I was like, you know what, we don't have answers for what they're stopping right now, and so we need something to where at some point talent, you can have the best talent, but sometimes it's just not good. Sometimes people play better than the defense might have a better game than the offense. People have off games and stuff like that, so it would be beneficial to have something, an answer for what they're stopping instead of just, hey, we're better at it, so we're just going to keep running it. So it's an interesting. It's tough because you don't want to do too much and you want to be simple, and that's the big thing nowadays is be simple. Run a few things and get really good at them. And it's like, yeah, that is good, but look at those teams that maybe don't have the talent and all the stuff they're doing. They're running maybe more things, more trickery. They might be running more trick plays. They might be doing more just different, with the formations and the type of plays they're running, all that kind of stuff. I mean, yeah, if you're at a top-notch school or you got a bunch of 5 stars, yeah, you can probably just run power the entire game. If you have Derrick Henry on your team, you can run power the entire time and probably be fine. But if you don't, you got to find creative ways to be able to get your players open and get them the ball in space. And that was one thing I learned kind of towards the end of the season there, where, yeah, we were putting up points and we were, someone was open on every play. But when you get the one team that's like, okay, we figured out how to stop it and your athletes might be equal, it's more of a tough thing to do.
Yeah, and another thing you were saying there, and I'll say that this would be another thing that I definitely learned, which again, I feel like I knew this going into my 7th year of coaching high school football, but another, just you got to be adaptable to your
Yeah,
team. You got to
correct.
take, like you're kind of saying right there, with if you had Derrick Henry on your team, you're going to do this, and you could definitely do that or whatever. But yeah, you have to be able to adapt to your players, and we saw that the first week that I was down here with summer weights, we had a kid that hurt his back basically in track, and then he was out for track, and then
Okay.
he was out for a long time, and so right away we had to move a tight end who had been practicing tight end for like a week, so not long. We had to move him to guard, and had never played guard in his life, and on an 8-man team,
Yeah.
all the coaches out there know what this is like, having to move guys around. You get one guy hurt, you're moving 2 to 3 guys just to fill in to fix those positions being left.
Yeah.
We only had
Yeah.
16 guys on our whole team. But I mean, yeah, you got to adapt at all times and use the skill sets that you got available. And then
You
you
do
kind
in,
of,
people, I think people think, I'm at a very small college, so it's nothing, crazy. Maybe when you're at Alabama, Auburn, something like that, you get your guys that you want every single year. But that's not the case even with what we have now. I have an idea of what I want to do going into the offseason, what we want to truly be next year. But you might not get the guys that you want that can, fill those needs and fill that position. So it is adapting no matter what, like just because let's, just for example, let's say, I want to base out of 11 personnel, but if we don't get a tight end that can be that guy that moves around like the dude from Georgia, that might not be the best case scenario, right? Or let's say I'm an air raid guy and I want to base out of 4 wides, but we have 2 good wide receivers, an amazing running back, an amazing tight end. It's like it doesn't make sense to stick to 2x2, 3x1 sets all the time. And that's one of the reasons I really enjoy watching high school, and a lot of the guys I learned from are high school coaches. Even you, man, learning from the stuff that you've done this year, you have no choice but to adapt. Yes, college, we can try and recruit and get what we get. You might not always feel what you need or, get the guys you really want. You still got to adapt, but it's more impressive to me at a high school level, you guys being able to, you have to change each year. You don't have to, but you never know what you're going to have. That's a better way to put it. You never know what you're going to have, and you have to adapt to what you have, because sticking a square peg into a round hole, man, it doesn't make any sense. You can't just force what you want just because of what you want. You got to deal with what you got.
No doubt. And you already said you guys adapted this year. Obviously, you started off as a DB's coach. You first
Yep.
thought you were going to be quarterbacks, and then
Correct. Yeah.
moved to DBs, and then obviously you became the offensive coordinator halfway through the year when things were not going good. But
Yeah.
I kind of already said this earlier, but I learned that all these other coaches out there are saying their kids are not smart, and that's really probably that could be true, but it might not be true. And I think it's not myself, but I think everyone is in that same boat. You're coaching teenage boys, and in my case, we actually had a girl on the team. So we got teenage boys, one girl, and
Right.
yeah, they might not be that smart, but no matter what, you got to teach them. You got no matter who you got, what you got. The lack of production on the field, in my opinion, it's either you lack athleticism overall, you
Right.
just got unlucky, you don't have athletic kids,
Yep.
or you're lacking of understanding. Your players, they don't get your coaching style,
Yeah.
they don't get what you're doing,
Yeah.
but you don't want it to be the lack of understanding, obviously. So, like we already said, the way to fix that is teaching them, coach them.
Yeah, and that comes back to the simple philosophy too. I think we talked about this before we even got on here. I'm going to add more plays to my playbook this year, but the way I'm going to teach it is got to be simple. You know what I mean? Taking over. I thought, and I think this is a big thing coaches might have. Like you said, one is underestimating what your kids can understand, and two, only thinking from your mindset. I learned a lot this year when it came to, I was a quarterback. I know what works for me. When I think of a play, it's easy for me. We talked about this. When I hear stick, mandatory outside release, 6 yard stick, shoot route, all that kind of stuff, that's easy for me to think of. But, doing our off-season meetings, I met with the entire offense and I asked them, what can we do, to help you out better? What did you think as coaches we need to improve upon? And one of the biggest things was just, to me, what seemed simple was not simple for them, right? So them, for some of the quarterbacks, the number system might be a little bit easier. So, whatever you number it at, like I said, for us, 851 would be stick. For me, stick is easier to remember than 851, just because I can picture that better. But for some players, it's not. And so this year we're going to adjust, and we're going to, the quarterbacks we're going to do more number and word kind of stuff, but it's not going to just be straight up stick, straight up snag, straight up, sail, cross, whatever you want to call it. Where to me, and from my perspective as a quarterback, seemed very simple. But for our receivers, for our running backs, even for our quarterbacks, they might find something else easier for them to learn. So I think some coaches get stuck in the way of like, this is so easy. And, I got in this way too in my head when we were struggling to kind of learn some stuff in the middle of the season. I'm like, this seems so easy. What are we doing? How can we not pick this up? But that's easy because I'm a coach. I know this stuff, right? This might be new for them. This might be something they never run. They might have learned it in a different terminology, in a different way. So I think for coaches to say, our kids are not smart enough to pick this up, it's like, I think you need to pay attention to more how you're teaching it and what you're teaching. Again, there is a possibility. I'm not saying it's not a possibility. There is a possibility where it might just be too much for a kid to pick up. But I also think we underestimate what a kid can pick up. And
Yeah, and again, this is kind of building off of the adaptability. As a coach, you have to adapt. So if you have to find out if your kids learn differently, or like you said, you learn it different because you see the visual concept when you hear the word stick, and they don't see that. They don't even know what that is, right? So yeah, you have to find out. You have to keep asking why. Ask your kids how they learn best, why they learn this way, all that, and just build relationships and earn their trust, because that's
right,
when they're going to do no matter what. They're going to put in the effort more when they know you care about them and you trust them, and
that's true. Yeah.
they'll learn how the stick is called stick if you put
Right.
in if you put in that extra time. But that's a big thing is, yeah, build relationships, earn their trust, keep asking them questions. So that's another thing that I would have said I
Yeah.
learned this year is
Yep.
that I further recognize that I need to keep growing as a coach.
Right.
I can't just be a coach. I'm a head coach, and look at me and I can do this and all that. No, I got to keep getting better and build upon what I'm doing. I don't want to just settle and do this. I'd love to go 8-0 in the regular season every year, but obviously we lost in the first round of the playoffs, so that's not what
You
you
still
do.
gotta don't downplay the accomplishment you had in this first year, that undefeated
Yeah,
season, 50s, whatever it was. But I
yeah.
get what
Yeah, well, I mean, I know somebody had said that to me. They said, "Dang, coach, first year coach here, and you
Yeah,
guys are undefeated. You're setting the bar high." And
yeah,
I told them, I said, "Well, that's where I want the bar. That's
exactly. Yeah,
yeah, 8-0 was huge, the first undefeated season since World War II, basically. But I
just the
mean,
beginning, though.
but yeah, but I mean, that's where we want to be. We want to be there every
Right,
year, and
right.
the way you get there, or one of the ways, is earning trust, building relationships with your
Yeah.
players, and if they trust you, then they'll listen and believe and buy into whatever you're trying to get them
That,
to do.
that's the
And
truth.
so,
And you know what? I'll say maybe not everyone feels comfortable doing this, but I definitely, I want to know what our players are comfortable running. You can have what you want to run, but you also got to know what your players want to run. I remember we on Thursday that I would ask our O line, "What do you feel comfortable with this week? What do you feel?" We were a big power and counter team. Um, Inside zone wasn't big for us. Outside zone wasn't that big for us. But it was power and counter. But if the first time we ran inside zone, they told me they said, "Hey, we feel good running inside zone." And then the first week we ran it, our running back averaged 6 yards a carry running it. And the next week it's like, we feel against this team, against this front, I feel more comfortable running power. Like you got to know what your players are comfortable running with. Not just line, quarterback. What's your favorite route to throw? Well, I really love throwing post. All right, well then we're gonna incorporate. I might tag some post to stick. I might tag post to cross. I might tag post to sail, anything like that. And you got to know because again, I think corner is one of my favorite routes. It's a man beater. It's one of the toughest to defend, but it's also one of the hardest to throw. So if I have a quarterback that can't throw a corner, I'm not going to ask him to throw a corner 25 times a game. And to me, that's coaching. They're the ones on the field, not us. I can sit back all day and be like, how did you miss that throw? It's wide open. It's there's nobody within 20 yards. You're throwing a 10-yard speed out from the wide side of the field. It's like, well, maybe you need to realize your quarterback don't have the arm to do it, the accuracy to do it. He feels more comfortable throwing in routes. That's that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So it's the adjusting and the learning and understanding your team. And like you said, they need to feel comfortable that you care as well. Like if I go in there, if a kid comes in and said I don't really feel comfortable throwing a 10-yard out, and I say, who cares? You're going to do it anyway.
mhm.
What is that? That does not make what. And then I want to complain to the kid because he can't make the throw. It's like he told me what he thought.
Yeah,
I ain't.
the
I'm not going to get on a kid because he can't throw it. We're recruiting, we're doing our thing. It's like, no, let's play to his strengths. If he's like, what, I'll throw a 40-yard frozen rope, and hit that dude right down the seam, and then like, well, that's what we should do. So
yeah, and that goes back to I mean, I think a lot of coaches are adapting and changing and and I think there are more modern coaches. There used to be a lot of transactional coaches, like, what are you going to do for me? How are you going to give me wins? Rather than caring about
right,
transformation, like, how am I going to make this kid a better person? And that's one way is like you said, know what your players are comfortable doing, asking
right,
them, finding out. And I did that
yeah,
the first time I met these kids was after I took the job. I got to come down and meet them, and that was the first thing I told them in the meeting was I said, I know it sucks getting a new coach.
yeah,
I had it happen my senior year. And so I told him that. I said, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to earn your trust from day one, and I'll
yeah,
do whatever. And then so what I did actually after that, I went and watched one of their track meets, which it was about a 2-hour drive for me at the time.
yeah.
But I
Yes,
went and watched them run and throw, and I talked to them, and I knew right away because one of the kids was the backup quarterback who was our all-state wide receiver, first receiver, over 1,000 receiving yards, hadn't played a single snap on offense in a varsity offense ever
yeah.
until
That's an all-state receiver, man.
because he was a backup quarterback. And then but I
Right,
told him, I said right there, I'm like, you coming out for football next year? And he's like, oh, I think so. And then I said, well, probably gonna put you at receiver or whatever. And he was
right,
smiling. He's like, oh, I've always wanted to do that. But yeah, but it was like, that's awesome. I mean, he was excited to play because he was gonna do something that he hadn't done. And obviously that showed in his effort this year. And then the same thing I said to the quarterback, like he hadn't gotten to throw the ball much over this last
yeah,
3 years. And I'm like, all right,
right,
we're gonna throw the ball this year. And he was so excited to do it. And so
right.
and that was another thing all year long, I heard from our players like, this is so fun. And I even had heard O linemen saying, man, the signals are so much easier, coach, when you tell me the play and all this. I'm
Yeah,
like, that's awesome, man. I would never would have guessed that. But yeah, you got to know what your players can do, what they're comfortable doing. And if you can make it fun for them, then it's going to be that much easier to get them to buy
right.
in what you're doing. Yeah.
Well, and that's the truth, man. It's we had a kid this year who came in and was a quarterback, and we talked and just kind of reiterate your fact of that you got to know your players, what they want to do and what they can do. Big emphasis on what they want to do as well, because talking about you had a quarterback who when you told him he was going to play receiver, he big smile on his face, because one, he's getting to play. Two, you never even know if that's what he might have wanted to play receiver the whole time. We had a quarterback this year who when I took over, I found out pretty early on, because I think I have a good relationship with the players, that he didn't really want to be a quarterback. He wants to play defense. He wants to play safety. It's like, well, then why am I going to make a kid play quarterback that doesn't really want to play it? Because one, it makes it not fun for him, and two, is he going to put the time in to play quarterback if he doesn't really want to play quarterback? Obviously, I mean, me, my quarterbacks, I expect a lot from them, and I expect them to put a lot of time in, and it takes a lot of time to be a quarterback. No matter what level you're at, that's what it is. And that's how I was, and that's what I expect. But I'm not going to take a kid that doesn't really want to play quarterback and force him to do that. And you know what? It did. Did it put us down one quarterback this year on the roster when I took over? Yeah, it did. But it also made his life more enjoyable. It allowed him to do more things. It allowed him to not have to, he don't want to sit around, and he wants to go out and run his route, or he wants to be on defense and hit somebody. Like, again, like, I'm sure if you told that kid that you're playing receiver and he was just super upset about it and didn't want to do it, you might sit down and have a conversation with him instead of saying, you know what, my way or the highway. It's just not how things are anymore. It's not how people respond to things. We talked about this earlier. I was supposed to be a quarterback coach, got moved to DBs. And I, as much as I want to be on the offensive side of the ball, I was like, this is fun. I get to learn something new, get to do something. I mean, I played DB, so it wasn't like I was coaching not knowing anything, but it's like, I just never thought that kind of thing. But
now yours is a different scenario though, because you were hired and you're getting paid to do that. So I
right.
get why you're more willing to adapt. Now, a player,
Yeah.
that's different. Yeah,
Well, that's what I'm saying. A player is different because it makes it even tougher, because I was hired to do this job and I wanted to do it. And I got to learn something new. A player is not always the same thing. A player wants to play what like you said, you got your guy. Like, if you told that guy he's playing receiver and he was upset about it, didn't want to do it, and you still said, too bad, I'm the coach, you do what I tell you.
Yeah, you're not gonna get the best
stay
effort
playing with you. Is he going to stay playing with you? Is he going to have fun? It's like, no, it's not. As a coach, you also have to be aware of like what they're wanting to do and make it enjoyable for them. You know what I mean? And look at him. You made it enjoyable for him, and 1,000-yard receiver, all state.
Yeah, that's another thing that I've learned also is that, and then I'm an AD, PE teacher, weights
Right.
teacher,
Yeah.
football coach. I was assistant girls junior high basketball. Now I'm gonna be assistant junior high track coach.
Yeah.
But so doing everything. But I've learned more of that too, is that kids want to see results. They want to see numbers.
Sure.
And so
Yeah.
we test max speed every Wednesday. We remax in our verticals, in our standing broad jump, in our squat and our bench. But yeah,
Right.
we retest and test probably every 2 to 3 weeks. And
Yeah.
every week, once a week, for max speed sprinting,
All right.
because and I give them their times every day, or
Right. They know, they can see.
and they
Yeah.
want to know, they want to see, all right, oh man, I got faster, and then when they have fun with it and they see that the results are coming, or as far as what I had in football, they saw the wins happening and the points being put on the scoreboard. So that's another way to get them all, I mean, to buy in. Winning solves a lot, but positive results, solves everything. I mean,
Yeah.
kids,
Oh, for sure.
yeah, kids have that drive to
And
improve.
that's,
You can
you know
show
what?
that you've improved, then they're
Yeah.
going to keep doing it.
Well, and here's the thing. I actually had a kid the other day. One of our players, good kid. He even said to me, so we had a max day before spring break because they all want to max. And I said, you know what? If this is what you really want to do, I'll let you do it. And he started out squatting maybe 295 for reps, not realizing he could push it harder. And this has been 2 months, and he hit 405 for a set of 2. So that's over 100 pounds in 2 months. And he probably could have done it earlier on, but sometimes you got to push them that way. But he you know what he said to me? He said, I was a little skeptical at first, and then I was like, you know what? I'm going to trust the process. I'm going to do this. And he did it. So it's one of those things, like, he trusts the fact that I was like, hey, I'm here to get you strong. I'm here to do this. They trust you. They want to see results, and they saw results. So it's just, but again, like you said earlier, part of it is getting them to trust you and know that you care about what they're doing in general. Because again, I'm here to help them overall. Let's say, they decide not to play for our school next year. I'm still here to help them. I want to help them as people in general. And I assume you as a coach as well, if you got a player that's like, you know what, we're moving, we're doing all this, you're not going to just all of a sudden be like, well, no, I don't want to talk to this kid. You're sure going to help him because you're one of your players and you want to help people in general. And I think that's a big thing about being a coach is it's not just looking out for yourself and your team. It's just helping. If you show the kids you want to help them overall in life, they will trust you more, and they'll be willing to, accept your help, and they'll trust what you're saying, but they'll also trust when you're telling them they need to change something. That's everything. It's any level of football. It's any level of anything because you're the coach. You're supposed to care about them in general.
Just
Yeah.
always being adaptable and growing as a coach. But I would say, and the last thing I'll say here and kind of wind this thing down, but is that I learned a lot about how much more is involved in coaching than just coaching. Like
Yeah.
especially as a head coach, like where this year I came in and I had 3 assistant coaches, and none of them are teachers within the school building. So they're all Rule 10 in Kansas. What that means is basically they have a regular day job and then they just come and coach football after that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what Rule 10 means. And you see that a lot in the rural areas in Kansas because it's hard to find people that want to be a teacher and a coach anymore. It's not a very common thing in small towns. But so anyways, when I came in, I had 3 assistant coaches and none of them really want to take on like a big coaching role. So they all just coach individual position groups. And so I'm the head coach, but I'm the offensive coordinator. I call the offense. I'm the
Right.
defense coordinator. I call the defense. And I'm the special teams coordinator. And I even do the special teams stuff. And that's kind of a lot to do.
Yeah,
But
that is.
but more than that, I balanced that. I don't think I did terrible. I would like to give it off to one of my assistants, or they would, for even defense and special teams. But
Right.
again, I don't know if they want to do that. I need to find out more if they're willing, because 2 of them own businesses, and so they're always busy.
Right.
But as far as like the other things that go into it, I mean, in a way, you're like a counselor, you're a therapist, you're a father,
Yeah.
a mentor, or somebody they can go to. And in some cases, an advisor, somebody who helps them with just making right decisions as far as money and other things outside. And nutritionist, being a weights coach, I teach them all the time about get some protein, fill your body with the right things. Don't put, don't put all that bad crap in it. And then
Right. Right.
kind of obviously a physical trainer as well, running the weight side of things and being the strength and speed coach. So, but yeah, I mean, that's the last thing I'll say is that I learned that there's way more to coaching than just being a coach.
Yeah, no, you know what? I actually said this before, and people can call it corny, you can call it whatever you want. Getting into coaching, I had all I cared about was football, right? Like you get into coaching at first, me
Mhm.
personally, I got into coaching because I was like, you know what? This is what I know, this is what I love, this is what I want to do. Then I got into it and realized, I really enjoy almost more than the football at times is creating that, relationship with the players and helping them through things that maybe, they need. Like you said, some people, whether it be just a mentor of sorts, or it be, like you said, with financial or like, I'm at a college, so they're away from home. Um, I want them to be able to shoot the breeze, come over, just talk to me, kind of do their thing. And, I'm not going to tell them what to do. I'm not their, parent, but if they have questions or they need advice, I'll give it to them. And I think I would guess that the majority of people that are coaches now would also feel the same way because I didn't expect to feel that way. I didn't. When I got into coaching, it really was for the football. And you
Mhm.
learn something about yourself, and obviously you want to help kids when you're in it in general, but you don't realize how much, or I didn't realize, I should say, not other people might have. I didn't realize how much I would enjoy or appreciate the fact that it's like, what, football's almost a secondary. I'm going to do everything I can to help them with football, but like I like being around these kids just because they're fun. They're good
Mhm.
people. They want some advice, and hopefully I can give them good enough advice that they follow, or not. They don't have to follow it, but it's just like I want to help everywhere I can in life. And I know it sounds hokey, it sounds corny, but at the same time, it's like some people need that, some people want that, and that's how it is. So, like you said, you being a head coach, I'm fortunate enough to where I just have to worry about the offense. We are at a small college. When special teams comes around, we'll help with that. But I don't have 20 different things like you have to do. So obviously, you have a lot more on your plate. And again, it's impressive what you've been able to do in this first year with the program, and to see where it's going to go after 1 year is going to be. I'm pretty excited. And again, I'm biased because I've known you forever. You're one of my best friends. I'm gonna be a little biased, and I think people should know that as well. But
Oh, I'm definitely biased too towards you.
yeah,
You've taught me so much football that I did not know. I didn't look at things the way, until you taught me that.
no, I would say we bounced off each other. There was things that I learned. Like people need to know that 8 man and 11 man. Besides the fact there's 3 players, like there is stuff that you've done that you show me in your offense, and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to implement this because it's a different way to think of things, and that's again one of the things that I really love about high school coaches, and one of the things I love about you being an 8 man coach is like, man, this would work at the 11 man level. Like again, the players is the only difference, the amount of players. Other than that, you're doing the same stuff that we are doing. We've had this conversation. You'll
Mhm.
run plays that we run at 11 man, just kind of with one less player. You'll do some stuff that I'm like, man, this is a good thing that we should run. So, but the fact that you have to do so much more than I have to do, I'm very fortunate right now that the majority of my job is coaching football. I don't have to be an AD like you got to do. I don't have to be special teams, defense, offense, all that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
junior high basketball, and then finding coaches. And again, there's
Yeah.
no fault in finding coaches. Again, you might have coaches on your team. This is for everybody, not just you. You might have coaches on your team that they just want to be there to coach and then want to go home and do their thing and be with their family and live other lives outside of that. Some of
And
us are
yeah,
not wired that way. Me being one of them, I'm not wired that way. My life is football 24/7. So I'm very fortunate to do it.
and I know you said that you originally got into coaching football because you wanted to coach football. You didn't
Right.
think about the necessarily the impact in the kids side, which automatically I already knew. I would have known you would have done that anyway, just
Yeah.
because you're a good person, obviously, and you have a good mindset. And but what I was saying was what I was gonna say was I got into education and because I honestly because I wanted to have that impact that the coaches that I had in high school had on me, and
Right.
then I learned football more on the way, which I always wanted to coach football. Yeah, I think you would have done it well in education though, honestly.
Yeah.
Even though you didn't realize it until now, kind of,
No,
the
that's the
impact you
thing.
could have and everything.
I in my head, I just wanted to coach football, and again, I love it. I love just getting to coach football. I love the fact that that's my job. I don't, I wake up. I get to recruit. I get to again you and I talked before we got on this. We're talking about the offense we're going to put in this year. I'm getting to talk about all this kind of stuff, and I really love that. But again, like you said, in the education field, I realize as much as I love football, and that's the path for me. A lot of that is because it's involved with people in general. So whether it be like you said in the education, whether it be you're teaching someone, you're helping kids do things in general, and one of the part of that as well is there's things, and I don't know, maybe I don't know if you feel the same way, but there's things that maybe you wish you would have gotten at a young age, or things you wish you would have gotten as a player from your coach. And it's like, I think that's helped me become a better coach. You know what
Oh,
I mean?
definitely. Yeah.
Um, there's things that I'm like, okay, I'm teaching this and doing this because at the time you don't really realize it, and then you get out of it and you're like, no, this is something that would have been beneficial to know. And so I think that's kind of where I'm at now. Like I said, I love where I'm at work wise. I love just getting to be around the kids, and I love, just with everything. I'll walk across campus and they're just talking, hey, what's up, coach? Let's shoot it. Let's just talk. Let's do this. Let's do that. I'm like, yeah, it's fun. It's they every time I walk by them, everyone's always saying, hey, all the players are wanting to talk, and it doesn't have to be about football, it can be about anything. You got
Oh,
any kind
yeah.
of questions on anything, and I think it's the benefit too of being a coach is they trust you, and if they know you care, like you said earlier, which obviously your players know, if they know you care, they're going to play for you. They're going to want to be around you, and they're going to know more about you. And same thing. You're going to want to obviously, if you care, you want to do that same kind of thing. So just been
Yeah.
it's interesting. Again, this all started because we're first year coordinators. We're first year. Obviously, you've been a high school coach for 7 years. This is very early on for me in the college level, but it's been a fun time, and can't wait to see where it goes after this.
Yeah, and this will be the last couple things I say, but yeah, and you definitely would agree with this. Football is the greatest game ever played.
Oh,
Greatest game
for
ever
sure. Not even
and
close. Yeah.
ever invented, no matter what.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
would even still say, even though we're talking about our coaches in high school and how we do things a little differently, like we realize the perspective we had, and
Right.
and I'm sure you do this too. But I recognize situations all the time where I feel like I was once in that kid's shoes, and I know what he's thinking right now,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
I'll respond differently than my coach did to me,
Right.
in that situation. And I think I've done that. I mean, I count 100 times I've probably done that, and I
Yeah.
think I do a decent job at it. But yeah, I look at football as the greatest game ever played, and look back and I think that was the most memorable time of my life playing high school football and then
Right.
getting the chance to play college. Now,
Yeah.
college definitely wasn't the same thing for me, but
Right.
maybe it was for you. But
Yeah.
my ultimate goal is for my players to one day be able to say the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
high school football was the most memorable and fun time of my life. That's the way I look at it, and that's the way I
Really is.
want it to be. And so,
Right.
like, if you look at it that way and you truly believe that, then you're gonna build those relationships with your kids, and you're gonna
Yeah.
try to make it fun, and you're gonna ask, what do you like to do? What's the favorite thing you want to do in football? You're not gonna put them out of position like you said.
Yeah, you
And
know what? We do that here. Like we have guys that'll play both sides of the ball, and a lot of guys come to college wanting to play both sides of the ball. And again, it's different. It's a lot harder to play both sides of the ball in college than in high school, no matter what level, just because you got to realize look at your high school. How many kids got a chance to play college football? Most of the time, it's very few. You might be the only one. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But we're recruiting kids. They might play wide receiver and defensive back, or running back and linebacker, running back safety. They might play 20 positions. We will say, what are you wanting to play? Like, again, I don't want a kid to come here and say you're stuck here. Even this is, just because we think it's your best position, even though you don't want to play it, right? So we will give you that shot, and most colleges, I assume, would do the same. Like, you're going to get that shot. So if we got a kid that, his film is wide receiver DB and he has 70% wide receiver, 30% DB, I'm still going to say, what are you looking to play in college? And if he says DB, I'm going to be like, you know what? We're going to give you that shot. You'll get the shot to play DB. If we don't think that's your best fit, we might move you back over to offense. I hope you're okay with that. And 99% of the time, I say, yes, that's fine. I just want to play. But that is the thing. Like, if that's what they like and enjoy better, they're going to be better at it, you know?
yeah, they're
Uh,
gonna put more effort into
put
being
more
good.
effort into it. They're
Yeah,
going to want to do it, and they're going to
yep.
appreciate the fact that you
You gave them the
see
chance.
that as well. You gave them a chance to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, you
Like I
didn't
said,
force
I
them to
could
do
find a
something.
kid.
Yeah,
Yeah, I could find a kid who I think is like top notch wide receiver, so DB, whatever. But if he doesn't want to play wide receiver, it's not his. Doesn't enjoy it as much. Like, he'll do it, but doesn't enjoy it as much. Why would I shove him in there just because I personally, as a coach, think he's better, even though he knows what he likes and what he's going to put more effort into?
yeah. And I guess, and of course, this is how we think and believe. I mean, there are some coaches out there that think and believe, okay, we're going to do it the way I want to do it.
Yeah,
And
yeah, there is.
is that 100% wrong? No, but you got to look at
No,
the situation you're in. Obviously, if it's going to help your team one way or the other, you might and think about doing it. But if
yeah,
you're actually in it for the kid and want him to become a better person and want, them to go on and do better things
yeah.
outside of football in life later on, then yeah, give him that chance. At least give him that chance, if nothing else.
And again, there's nothing wrong with it, but I've just learned again, talking in our first year of being like true, like I said, me being an OC, you being a head coach, it just seems to have been more beneficial and better, relationship creating. Like I said, if a guy goes to DB and like he's a wide receiver DB, wants to play DB, even though he's a better receiver, and you give him the shot and he realizes, you know what, I'm not the best at the position, he'll be a lot more willing to come over to offense and be like, well, you gave me my shot. I appreciate that. I'm going to work hard for you.
Yep, exactly. Well, Coach, thanks again for coming on today, and really appreciate talking ball with you and you taking the time out of your day to join me on this, and really appreciate all the stuff we talked about.
I appreciate you having me on. Love to come on. Love everything you do on YouTube. Like I said, I've learned a lot of stuff from you being an 8-man, 11-man. It's not different like people think. There's a few changes you got to make, but I've learned stuff from you that I'm definitely going to be using, and hope everyone else is learning the same.
And that's going to do it for this episode of the 8-Man Breakdowns podcast. If you ever have a question for me, feel free to comment down below on this video or visit my bio to shoot me an email. If you've learned anything or enjoy any of these videos, please click subscribe and check out some of my other videos right here. And as always, guys, thanks for tuning in.